All right. We are at the final group stage week of prediction content, 5 going into 6. But before I hop into looking at the matches, there's a bit of a correction I have to make. Because last week, it really looked like on the schedule that Paradox and DC Clan had been removed from Divine League. But I got a little message here from the Divine Captain's channel that clarifies that Paradox was not removed. DC was, they stepped out. Paradox is still in, and on top of that, there was a bit of a move around with the matches. So we originally thought, oh, wrong one. We originally thought Wolfgang was going to play Antikythera, but instead they played Paradox. So first things first, I thought I'd just fix up the tier list. Last week I mentioned I thought Paradox was very good, but it didn't matter because it looked like they weren't going to be in the league anymore. Now they're in the league. I think they pretty rightfully set an A tier, and we'll go over their games this week as well because it kind of locks them into that in some degree. Antikythera is arguably at 2 FFs now. I think technically they may only be at 1, which I'll get at, but we're going to move them into the dead tier. And we'll move some other people around too after we look at the games. But just to go off of this new information, I wanted to fix that bit up. So yeah, on to the games. I keep clicking the wrong tab. So as before mentioned, Antikythera ended up getting a bye, which means they technically may have not gotten a forfeit. I think the rules are 3 forfeits and you're out. You're not allowed to play anymore. They had a forfeit last week, and they arguably had a forfeit this week. I'll be curious to see if admins have them play playoffs if they forfeit again next week. It seems like the best answer there would probably just be to ask them if they want to play playoffs. But who knows? Because I think technically they may only have 2 FFs if they FF next week, since their FF got changed to a bye. But whatever. Let's look at the games that actually happened. I guess we'll be starting off with my own game, which I predicted correctly because I was cocky and then won. These games are pretty stompy. I was obviously very happy with them. Looking at 1k a minute lead. I'm being a tryhard little bitch, not going to say too much because I don't want to give away my genius strategies that I definitely don't come up with day of draft. So I guess we'll focus more on Team O's here. So the thing with Team O is that I think I've been slowly coming to this conclusion, but this week really cemented it for me. Team O's isn't really a team. So today we had Rock, Yorkin, and JJ Pope as the players that showed up to the match. And we had Melody from Team Paradox standing in mid, and a friend of theirs, Boris Kuhn, standing in for 3/4. And every single week, pretty much, Team O's uses 2 stand-ins, and it's not consistent which 3 players show up, which I just thought was interesting. There's actually a player on their team, Zai, I think it is. There's a player on their team that showed up to like 1 game. Maybe Zai was one of the stand-ins they used. Oh, I forgot the way this site works. It's kind of weird. So Zoom wasn't here this week, and Kirok wasn't here this week. Which, yeah. But I think they were here like last week. So it's actually, this team's really interesting in the way they operate. Because it's almost more like a pub stack, you know? Like you see a stack and it's like, oh, that's like the Rocky stack or whatever. And you'll usually see Yorkin there. And then there's like a group of people that you'll see, but it's not like always the same 5 people. It's just like an amalgamation of 10 people or so. And that's kind of what this team is. And it's just, I don't know, it's kind of funny to me. Yeah, so Kirok played quite a few. Zooms maybe be more on and off. I don't know. It's just funny. They used to, it's so funny that they have to like reschedule every week and stuff to use stand-ins. It kind of blows, honestly. I hope they, for their own sake, get some more consistency. But what was also interesting this week is that Melody actually drafted for them, which I don't know why they did that because frankly I don't think he drafted very well. Like this Void Spirit pick was extremely questionable. I think Wraith King into Monkey King is also a little questionable. I really like the Wraith King. As you'll see from game 2, like I'll just first pick this shit. I like it, but I mean, I do think Monkey King's a hero that deals with it pretty well. Just in terms of like win rate even. Pretty sure win rate wise, he's even pretty bad, right? I guess I'm wrong. Who cares? I think I'm right. I don't know. Seems weird to me. Monkey King's kind of up there. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. The Void Spirit, I think, was just probably the really weird pick. The rest of it, like, I guess is whatever. The support duo is weird. We'll let the Wraith King fly, whatever. I might just be wrong on that. But the Void Spirit was weird. Like, I already have, like, probably, if you're looking at this draft, you're assuming it's probably either Monkey or NP mid. Maybe you think it's a Weaver mid. I mean, Monkey just destroys you. You're just kind of asking to play against Monkey. You're probably fine against NP, but I mean, NP can just go to a different lane. If you thought it was going to be an NP mid, I don't know. It was very weird. Void Spirit's also a hero that I think you can just first pick. Like if you play Void Spirit, just first pick it. It's like you might as well. You're picking it into a counter anyway. I think even if the hero gets countered in lane, it can still do a lot of work. And he didn't go Yules either. We had like a super fast Orchid, and he just didn't go Yules. So it was a little weird to see that Rock, their captain, was here. Their captain and their immortal player was here, and he didn't draft. I found that very strange that they had their stand-in draft for them. And Melody drafted again in game 2, which seemed a little bit better. The last pick was actually good. The last pick of Void Spirit was just so fucking weird. But the SF, I think, was a good pick. So that worked out. It beats Void and Lane. I mean, they still didn't win, but at least Melody was able to have a bit of impact. Yeah, these were my games. I got to bust out Chen Phoenix. Good fun. He used to play that a lot when he was Crusader. His offlane pool when he was Crusader was like fucking Phoenix Undying. It was extremely cursed. But yeah. Anyway, moving on to other people. That was what that was. Let's look at games that don't have me in them, because I feel a lot more comfortable talking about those. Not that I didn't used to care. I used to like talk a lot about what I thought on drafts, but this league is like so small, and I know some of the teams, they at least seem kind of sweaty. So I feel more inclined to hold back when making AD2L content. But Coconut Gaming absolutely eviscerated Grid Ethereal to the surprise of, I'm sure, absolutely no one. Like, what do I even have to say here? Do the drafts matter? Does it even worth talking about the drafts? I sure hope Gambit didn't say that as well, because if so, I'm gonna feel like a fool. They picked this new OD hero as a mid. That hero seems pretty fine now, honestly. Wow, its win rate is actually good now. I'm not sure if it's a mid hero again, though. That hero, I feel like the games I've seen that hero do the best is when it's like I've seen it do really well as pause 3. I've seen a couple good pause 4 games, but I've seen it do good as like a non-carry mid. Like it always used to be like a pause 1-esque mid. But it seems to just like, I see a lot of like the Meteor Hammer Blink shit that seems to be really effective. Maybe that's because he can just right click really well without needing any of the items to do it, but I don't know. The hero seems to be coming back. They seem to have like an okay game on it. I think it's pretty good against Timber, at least in theory, but I mean, they just got wiped. They lost all their lanes. Looks like there was maybe something good going on for them here for a while, but not for long. Yeah, I don't think game 2 is much better. I did briefly look over these today, so I wasn't totally unprepared. Madojam did not die. Lorenzo died once. 15-minute Radiance. Very nice timing. The AC seems like it took a while. As soon as is when he died, right? Yeah, he died for real at like 21 minutes, so that's why his AC was delayed. He died, reincarnated, died, Aegis, and then died again. That's impressive. Tusk also looked like they buybacked there. What the fuck happened in this fight? I don't get to see the death locations here, do I? That's weird. Anyway, this man's really farmed, despite the fact his AC got delayed. Yeah, looks like they won all their lanes again. I think this is honestly the worst part about being a lower MMR team. Like even if you're like decently well coordinated and you can kind of like work around each other and fight well in the mid game, if you're just like objectively weaker players, chances are you're going to lose a lot of lanes. And when you come into the mid game every game behind, like it's like 15 minutes in and they're already like 5k behind, almost 6k behind, it's just so much harder to play the game. Like even if you're drafting and working well as a team, if you're just coming into every game behind, it just blows. So, yeah, and this team is just what it was at the beginning of the season, I guess. Maybe they gained some medals. I don't know. They're still like they they could play ancient again after this season. They still don't. It's whatever. I'm still kind of confused why this team's here. Whatever. Moving on. Idiots versus Hellbears. A similar story, but for different reasons. Hellbears annihilated them game 1. I gotta say, Scrub kept telling me like, "Oh yeah, we'll get him, Claire. We'll beat him. Come watch our game. Don't watch Dumbledore. Watch us. We'll beat Hellbears." Man comes in like barely in time, like a minute after game start, because he was fucking like getting shit back from his ex or whatever. Has absolutely zero game plan, zero idea what to draft. I think I was streaming like casting this, and I called like 3 of Hellbear's picks, because this is just like the most obvious Hellbear's draft. Like it's like, yeah, they're gonna pick the Wyvern first. You gave them the Wyvern. You've picked a Darkseer. They're probably gonna take AM, which they did last week, because that just wins that lane. They've picked a Tusk. It's gonna go offlane. But Scrub didn't realize it was gonna go offlane, so he banned offlaners and then gave Master Z Zeus. Like I'm pretty sure I called on stream, like Winter River and Anti-Mage and Zeus. Or I at least expected them. Like I feel like idiots just kinda gave Hellbears everything they wanted in this draft, and they paid for it very dearly. Game 2 was at least much more interesting. It was actually pretty fun to watch, honestly. There was actually hope. The draft here was super fucking weird. They picked a Witch Doctor, and then they picked a Quap. And my understanding of it was that Scrub kind of like panic picked the Quap for mid, and then Choco didn't want to play it mid, and he just decided to play Witch Doctor mid. The Witch Doctor mid was frankly pretty underwhelming. And at the same time, did more than I expected it to. Like, it kind of lost lane and had no gold and minimal impact, but it did just have these super random Maledict kills that were pretty impactful. Like, 3 kills on PA, one of those maybe an Aegis, I think. Or at least one of them was an Aegis, but he kind of just got these random core kills. The only kill on Mirana, which was at like the end of laning stage, I think. When was the Mirana death, actually? I could check. Okay, no, actually a bit later. It was at like 21 minutes. So it was weird, because on one hand it looked totally useless, and on the other hand it did randomly kill some people. This game was like, it looked a lot closer than it does like on paper. Like 25 to 51, that seems pretty stompy, but I mean, you also look at the time, 50 minutes. There are these fights where they just kind of killed PA. Or like, they were just dying all the time, but occasionally they just got a couple kills, and they held high ground. The Lifestealer was doing a lot of work. And the Darkseer, I think, got some stuff done as well. And so it was just weird. It was weird to watch because they were crazy behind. Idiots was crazy behind like the whole time. And it didn't really look like they had any chance of winning, but they really held on for a long time. It like almost gave me hope that they would win a game. But inevitably they lost in the end. So that's whatever. Not super unexpected. I'd like to say for the record that when I predicted a 1-1, I predicted Idiots to get an FF win. I didn't expect them to actually win a game. So, I was close to being correct. Vapor versus Dumbledore. Oh yeah, game 1 wasn't ticketed. There it is, boys and girls. Not a lot to look at. Idolatry Windranger. Classic. The Kavoth AA. Not Grandmaster. Weak. Looks like they picked up a lot of shards. Kind of cool on both teams. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a fucking screenshot. Tiny kind of went off. Big fan. Like Tiny. Let's look at the one that's actually on Dota Buff. We can see bands and charts and stuff. Oh, very smooth sailing. 47-9. Holy shit. Okay, so Dumbledore crushed this. Oh, I think I saw part of this game. Yeah, so when I was bored of idiots losing, I kept I'd look over at the Dumbledore game. Idolatry killed this Leshrac. He literally just like right clicked him to death. Like the Leshrac just massively overextended and just died super early. Gambit, I think Gambit stream was asking like how on earth did this Lesh die at 3 minutes? He literally just got right clicked. I don't know what the fuck was going through Leshrac's head. He was like level 2 or whatever. Like level 2 to level 3. He just got right clicked down and died. It was extremely whack. This Necro, it was just impossible for them to deal with. The Sand King was obviously very large as well, level 125. Like, I don't know. They did the thing where they won all 3 lanes and then just crushed the enemy team. It's a very effective strategy. I'd highly advise it. They picked this PL hero, which looked pretty good when you only saw these 3 heroes, but looked pretty bad when they revealed the Sand King and the Necro. I was actually a little surprised they didn't take the Leshrac, but when the Necro had that good of a start, it worked out. So, can't really complain about that one. Yeah, Stompy game, Stompy game. A lot of Stompy games this week, which is a little weird for week 5, but that's just the way the cookie crumbled, I guess. Speaking of Stompy games, so Paradox, I didn't get to talk about them too much last week, because I kind of began talking about them as like, looks like they're kicked out, so I'm not going to bother saying anymore. But I do think they looked pretty good. I mentioned they had multiple immortals, only one of which showed up this week. Shinx, they had this, I think this guy stood in a couple times now. I think for different teams as well. I like dead ass, dude. If you try and have this man stand in against me, I'm just gonna say no. I don't care that his account looks super bot. It's just like, can you just find a player that doesn't have a sketchy ass looking account? I don't know. Maybe I'm not allowed to say no, but I'd be really ticked off. This guy doesn't seem to actually be like a top 500 immortal player. The account looks bot, and they definitely aren't playing very well in AD2L games. But God, it's just like I don't know why so many teams in this league have such questionable shit. I guess maybe I shouldn't talk because I know some people think some of the wasted people look questionable as well. Like Choco has like no recent games because he's a fucking Beat Saber player now. Someone asked about Youth was like sharing screenshots because the team was asking about Maniac, asking if he had Smurfs. It's like no, he just doesn't play Dota. But it's one thing to not play Dota. It's another thing to have whatever the fuck this is. Anyway, that's a little rant. Paradox crushed him. The Void Spirit kind of went off, it looks like. Sand King really went off. So I have lost my passion, man. Maybe it's good he lost his passion, because it's resulted in him playing some very good Dota. 17-4 and 17 on the second game. But I guess we'll look at the draft before I move on like this. I don't know how much I actually care about the drafts, to be honest. I've skipped most of them so far. Sometimes I care. It depends what they pick. The AM pick looked good. It looked really good, actually. Wait, actually, didn't Gambit Stream mention this as well? I feel like they did. I see what they mean now. I wasn't really paying attention. I was working. You see all this magic damage. It's bad against Tusk, and it's iffy against Grimstroke. But it's a lot of magic damage. You pick AM. They pick a Juggernaut, which is not very good against AM. You go 0-6. Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah. You know what's really weird about this shit? They're using 3 stand-ins. That's right. This is, like, not legal. I assume Paradox agreed to it because they just wanted to play some Dota. But this is I believe Team Ember is what Gambit was saying. I remember playing Team Ember Season 28. This team's just really bad. I'm not going to lie. Like, Paradox is like a team that looks like they, for the most part, should be in the Divine League. It's like an Immortal, a couple Divines, a High Ancient. Yuno looks low, but I mean, this account's sketch as fuck as well, so who knows what MMR they are. Like, this team looks like they should be here. This team does not. This team's like a bunch of... They have a Legend and a couple Ancients. Do these people even play Dota anymore? Does Revamp still play Dota? He still plays Dota. Still kind of low, though. So, I don't know. They got rolled. They lost lanes, and then they lost the game. Game 2, I guess, looks closer in terms of score I'm seeing right now. And it was a lot closer. Oh, they actually won some lanes. Yuki won mid on puck. And, is this Itzpat? Itzpat played Gyro. Looks like they won their off lane as well. That off lane probably should win, though. They lost mid on Tiny. I guess there's a pretty big MR difference between Yuki and Melody, so that's maybe not the most shocking thing, but Tiny still did well. Tiny didn't even really have early deaths. What do they say about these lanes? Sometimes Dodobuff is really weird what it calls a one lane. Okay, so he did have a lot less XP and gold. Wow, there's a lot of early kills. This is before 12 minutes. So there was like 30 kills at 12 minutes. Holy shit. There was a lot of death this game. So I guess Ricky had a rough start, but Bristle was owning. Dang, this Spirit Breaker had a great start to the game. Must have been feeling himself. Although they used it to buy Arcane. Okay, this person's just a fucking idiot. Holy shit. Imagine having that good of a start and just buy Arcanes and a point booster. Jesus. Hey, he had 3k net worth. How is this all he afforded? Or they. I shouldn't say he, I guess. Seriously, what the fuck? They buy an urn and sell it? So they got an urn. This explains where some of the money went, because this is like 1200, if not more. That's where most of the money went, and then they had a tome and some consumables. And did they sell the urn? Yeah, because Yuki like bought an urn around the same time, so I guess they had to sell the urn. Oh, that's messy. That's messy. Probably didn't expect me to catch that and looking at a Dota buff, huh? Well, assuming any of these players watch, probably not. Either way, God, it looks a lot closer. They had a lot of early team fight, which I guess helped them out here. But, I don't know, maybe this would be interesting to watch. I'm not going to watch it. But it's definitely one that it looks like Dota buff doesn't give a full story. It seems like Dyer's doing pretty well, and they just fell off a cliff. What item timings happened here? Like, around 27 minutes? BKB didn't come until later. I guess the first big kills were more at 30. Maybe they'll actually got the BKB right after the fight then. I guess they got an AC. A Manta? Doesn't look like they really had any big item timings at 30 minutes. Let's look at the builds again. I'm a little confused how maybe they just got their act together and just won some fights. Oh, they got Aegis at 29. Did this happen right outside of the pit? Wait, what time did I say the fight was at? 29 or 30? Maybe he got the BKB like right at 30 minutes. The AC at 29. So when are all these deaths? 30, 30, 30. So I guess, yeah, he literally... This says 31, but it's actually 30, 26. So they got a BKB on Bristle and just won the fight. That's kind of what it looks like. They got BKB and an AC probably helped as well because it's a big item. Tiny's first big item. And they just won the fight. So I guess that's what happened there. Gyro also kind of got a BKB. I suppose it doesn't matter as much, though. Gyro's against a bunch of like physical damage. The BKB doesn't actually do much of anything. It helps against Grim and Io, or not Grim and Io, like Grim and Tiny a bit. I mean, technically Io, but not really. Yes, anyway, so the thing with this Wilgang game, though, like I already think Paradox is good, this just kind of secures that. Wilgang has the same team on the site, though. He still has the players he had before. I don't think he's going to be playing with this team. I've got too many tabs open again. I don't think this is going to be his new team. I would be surprised if Abin's even allowed such a massive reshuffle right before playoffs. I mean, I honestly wouldn't care, but it would be very odd. The whole point of a roster lock is that your roster is locked. I feel like if you're changing 3 players, you may as well just say wait till next season. I don't know. I guess, as I said, I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't complain about it. It would just be very strange. But anyway, regardless, I don't know. The old Wilgang team looked fine. I probably won't move them in the tier list because I don't think this is going to be their new team. If it is, then yeah, they definitely go down because this team is just weaker. Even if they've have like some experience playing with each other in the past, like I don't know, man. It's just a lack of MMR. MMR isn't everything, especially in AD2L where the teams seem to be all over the fucking place, but there's limits. The players on the previous team seemed very solid. Their offlaner was like very good. Their mid was pretty solid. They played around Yuki well. There's no way this would be an upgrade. But moving on. Last game. Oh yeah, so this is the game that actually surprised me. Because I thought Victoria's Secret was going to win this. And game one is crazy close. It's super back and forth. Like, oof. Looks like Radiant like almost looks like they won. They got a bunch of kills, a massive spike in farm, and they just immediately die. I assume they ran up the high ground and got bot backed or something. Bot back like that. That's not a fucking sense. I assume like the Dire did a bunch of buybacks and then got them, but I'm not sure. It's wild how this seems to have swung so hard. It's also interesting how Victoria's Secret seems to not have a base, whereas Dire does. Even though the net worth is really back and forth, 2 T2s still up, all the T3s, Barracks untouched, whereas Radiant's base is just ravaged. The building damage is actually crazy low on Radiant. So I don't know. I don't exactly know what happened here. The axe, this guy's like Master Axe spammer, lost his lane to a TB. No, they lane swapped. He lost his lane to a Sand King, and he shows as being solo. Oh, he need a bounty hunter. So that's basically like laning solo if you have a bounty hunter supporting you. I've never seen a bounty hunter be useful. That's an exaggeration, but it's definitely a real hit or miss hero. If you can slap them, then he seems kind of useful in lane. If you can't, then you don't. And it looks like he went mid a lot based on where Dodobel chose to put him for their lane assessment. So yeah, anyway, they lost that lane somehow. They won mid at least with the bounty hunter there. They didn't have a very large lead though. It's like 4 to 3k. They lost a bunch of heroes at some point somehow. Damn, they just fed. They just died. Just looks like a very back and forth game that Dire had a slight lead in. And I think, if I remember correctly, game 2 is a lot more one-sided. I assume Victoria's Secret was a little broken. I think what I see very often is when there's a very close, long game 1, the team that won game 1 will often win game 2 in a much more, like, deciding way. There's just a big morale swing that happens when you are victorious in a game like that, in a very close game. So it's a little close to begin with, and then the net worth just starts snowballing. Lost lane on a Wraith King. Terrible timings. I think they're bad anyway. These have to be bad, yeah. I I don't exactly know timings for Wraith King. Maybe the phase boots to Radiance with the armlet in between is okay. But I'm pretty sure even with an armlet, 25-minute Radiance is very bad. But it doesn't matter, because it looks like he just AFK jungled it while his other lanes won. Oh yeah, Lamar's super went off. 21 and 4. Good lord. Looks like it kind of just got worked. Damn. He just killed everyone, huh? And actually never killed Underlord, so that's a lie. But he killed the cores a lot. I assume just blinking in and comboing them. The OD had like no items. Oh wow. Oh, this isn't a core at all. This is a support. Silly me. Why would I think OD would be a core? What a fucked world we live in. Or reality. Either way, he did kill Slark a lot, so Master got owned, I guess. Maybe he was tilted. I've heard the man tilts. Considering he played so well game 1 and lost. Either way, this was a pretty big for Wards and Base, because I absolutely thought they were going to lose this game. And they didn't. The Nyx pick is very nice. This is like a crazy good Nyx. Like, you see Puck, Snapfire, you pick a Nyx, that's super good. This is a really good Rubik pick, too. You get it into Snap and Underlord. These are some good picks. This Mars first overall obviously worked out very well. So the man slew on it. Oh, what did they do game 1? No, I'm impressed by game 2. A little less interesting, I guess. TB is pretty good against Jug, I think, on paper. Especially since he's stuck with the Battle Fury plan. I don't think he's meant to be good into these heroes. You don't really take damage from Bounty, but you get harassed in lane. I mean, they fixed it, I guess, by swapping lanes and managing to keep those lanes, but I guess this just worked out because they lane swapped. I don't know. They still lost lane, technically. Game 1 draft isn't as impressive, IMO. But, yeah, I still expected them to lose and they won. So let's just hop back over to the tier list. God, maybe I should get, like, Google Drive dark mode or something. I feel like it's really shocking when I move from the dark Dota buff to the sheet. Let me get rid of this thing now. Pause if you wanted to read that. Let's move some people around. I think... Okay. There's got to be some movement here. My gut reaction is to just move Victoria's Secret down for now. And then if Wards and Base win this week, move them up. But maybe I just straight up swap them. I could just swap them. I don't know how much I believe that, though. I think this has been Wars and Base only real interesting win. They forfeited against Coconuts. They lost to Dumbledore. They beat Anti-Kithra, which was not interesting at all. And then week 1, what happened? They played me, right? And they lost to us. This is the only real win they've had. Anti-Kithra doesn't count, and everything else has been a loss. So for now, I'm going to move Victoria's Secret down, because I was wrong about how good this team was, I think. Oh, didn't hold shift. And if Wards and Base win next week, I 100% move them to C tier for the, I guess what will be the playoffs version of this show, if you want to call it that. So for now, we'll just have a very crowded F tier. I don't want to move. I'm definitely not moving this guy up. Or these idiots. And Victoria's Secret just got here. So yeah, at least the color works nice. You know, they got the purple theme going. I think they'll enjoy their stay in F tier, personally. And they have a bye this week. So is there anyone else I want to move around? Wilgang I'm going to leave for now. If their new roster is the Ember roster, they are 100% C tier. Otherwise, they can stay here. And I think it's still the original roster. I don't think it's Team Ember because they haven't changed it on the site. So they'll stay at B tier. Coconuts Gaming can also stick at B tier. As expected, they've come back. They had 2 wins. They were 2-4 at one point. As predicted, they've won twice in a row. We'll look at their game this week soon. They're making a comeback. I'll leave them at B tier as well, though. They might be better than Wilgang. Maybe O's should be moved down. O's has been losing a lot. O's is actually only 5-5 at this point. Because we 2-0'd him. Who else 2-0'd him? WSS 2-0'd him. And Dumbledore 1-1'd him? I think that's what happened. Huh, you know what we'll do here? I'm going to do this. We'll move the Wizards up 1. Yeah, I think this works. I think this is a little more accurate. And you know what I'm going to do? Because I've become aware, like fully aware that Team O's is a very, like, kinetic team, modular team. They're a modular team. It's not the same 5 people every week. It's constantly changing. And although that's kind of cool, and it's cool to see how they adapt to which stand-ins they have to use, I think it does make them weaker than they could be. So we'll swap them with Coconuts. Coconuts is making their long-deserved return. Oh shit, what have I pressed? I hit tab or something. What did I press? Whatever. So yeah, we'll swap these around. I think this is how I like it. Yeah, this is how I like it. Let's move on to next week's matches then. I'll make some predictions and also talk about who I think should move if they win. Because I've already said if Wards and Base 2-0 Grin Ethereal, then I think they definitely move up. Because at that point, they've crowned themselves better than all the F tier teams. And I'm going to predict that they will 2-0 Grin Ethereal. I definitely think they can do it. If they play like they did last week, easy game. Grin Ethereal's not good. I don't think Wilgang will even have to play Anti-Kithra. I think they will forfeit. No one will move. If Anti-Kithra actually shows up and plays and doesn't just dip out of the tournament, then I'll be interested to see who Wilgang's actual team is. Is it Wilgang or is it Team Ember? If it's Team Ember, I'm moving them down. I don't care if they 2-0 Anti-Kithra, they should do that regardless. But if it's the Ember team, it's just not as good. And obviously, if they lose to Anti-Kithra somehow, then they definitely move down. Because that's not good. It's not a good look. But I don't think Anti-Kithra will even play. I think they'll just forfeit. My own game? Well, I just beat Melody last week, so surely I can do it again, right? Pepe laugh, haha. Honestly, my internet sucks right now. I can't play Dota, so I might have a stand-in for myself, and that's almost definitely going to be an upgrade, because I blow. I wish I was joking. But I don't know. Hopefully I can play that game, because I really want to play Paradox. I haven't got to play, like, Hellbears in the group stage. I at least want to play Paradox. But we'll see what the all-powerful ISP lets me do. Hellbears versus Dumbledore. I think this relies a lot on how much Hellbears cares about having a lossless record. Because here's the thing, would they have 10 wins, and the next best team has 7, they're locked into first seed. They can get 2-0 this week, it does not matter. For terms of seeding, they are set at first. And if they are looking at this in terms of seeding, they might just not care this week. And they might either intentionally meme or just not try as hard because they aren't motivated. If they're motivated by seeding. And if that happens, I think Dumbledore could definitely take a game. I think Dumbledore is very capable, and if Hellbears get sloppy, they could absolutely lose a game. If Hellbears really cares about this flawless record, though, and they want to like do a 12-0 group stage, then they'll be like, in theory, they'll at least be trying to play it like their A game. And I do think that Hellbears should 2-0 Dumbledore if they're playing at like peak performance. I like Dumbledore, and I think they can take a game, but I think if Hellbears is really motivated to win and they aren't fucking around, I think the highest chance is them to 2-0. I don't know. I'll go with a 1-1 because I gotta like predict wasted teams to win or something. Gotta have that org spirit. I think it's very possible though. I think especially if Idolatry gets a good mid matchup versus Master Z, I think Idolatry and Master Z are definitely the best players on their team. Idolatry maybe a little more noticeably because Greg is not as good as Control. But I mean, Master Z, I think he is the best player on his team. And so if Idolatry gets a good mid matchup, that could really set the stage for this game. So I think a 1-1 is definitely possible. We'll see. Coconuts Gaming versus Vapor. I'm gonna be real, I don't think Vapor looks that great. They look fine, like I do stand by that they're better than the F tier teams. Like they do stand above. They've played a lot of good teams too. They got that like free week 1 win because they just weren't signed up. Because that's how this shit works for some reason. But who have they played? They played Idiots and 1-1. But that was a scuffed game, if I remember correctly. All the Idiots games are scuffed. Then they played Team O's. Which version of Team O's was this? Also, what patch was this? Some of these older. Okay, this was on the old patch. There's a First Man Spectre. This has to be on the old patch, right? Does it show old spells? Max. Oh no, it must be new patch. There's no way. There's no way you maxed E on Lifestealer on the old patch. So this is new patch. And what version of did they play? It was Melody Stand-In again. Yorkin, Kirok. Oh, all the boys showed up. So it was only JJ Pope that was missing. Melody stood in. I'm just looking at really old games now. Kira kind of went ham. Very early Deucepic. What else have they played? So they played the good version of O's and lost. At least what I think the good version is, when like most of their players show up and they only have one stand-in and it's a suitable stand-in. JJ Pope and Melody look really similar. I think they're both mid players. They're both around high ancient, and they're both playing 4. Like JJ Pope seems to be playing 4 at least in a lot of those games that he actually shows up to. Then they played against DC Clan, which involved a forfeit. And then they lost to Dumbledore. Man, I guess they're a bit all over the place. Whatever. I think Coconuts Gaming is going to 2-0. Vapor doesn't look that strong. Coconuts Gaming does. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they 2-0. I can't really see Coconuts Gaming losing to Vapor. The only games Coconuts Gaming has lost was to Hellbears, who are absolutely untouchable right now. Well, not untouchable. I think they could lose a game. They're just not losing games. And I don't think they're losing, I don't think they're getting 2-0'd anytime soon, that's for sure. Maybe in a double, I think in a double Elam bracket, they're like almost guaranteed to go through the upper stage. And if they do get knocked down, they're still probably going to end up in the grand finals. So they lost to them, and then they lost to us. And they lost to us on the first day of patch, which was maybe a bit janky. And I also think we've proven ourselves to be a decent team, so. Although we lost to Wilgang. Wilgang hasn't really played those, so yeah, whatever. Yeah, so I think that's a 2-0. Wasted Idiots versus O's. Honestly, I think it completely depends on who shows up. Well, now, see, I say that. But of course, Idiots, the whole thing they've done this tournament is mostly just get FF wins. Team O's, here's been my experience with Team O's, right? Every single game I've played against or watched, and I've watched a couple of them because they always reschedule of Team O's, they always show up late. They always show up with stand-ins. When they played against me, Rock didn't message me that they were using stand-ins until 5 minutes after game time. And it's like, oh, by the way, we're using 2 stand-ins. Like, they were already in the lobby. They were in the lobby before Rock, so I already saw. I didn't really care. I'd already looked up their Dota buffs. But I think if you try and pull a fucking reschedule that you show up late, I mean, part of the reason they showed up late for mine was that we asked them to move it forward kind of last minute, so I don't blame them for that at all. But the other games I've seen on Saturdays, they've also shown up late too. I honestly, I kind of hate to see this because it paints Wasted Idiots in a bad light. Maybe it should. I think there's a decent chance that Wasted Idiots somehow gets a forfeit win out of this. I don't think they're going to want to play on Saturday. Like, I'm pretty sure they do shit on Saturday. That would force Team O's to actually show up on Thursday. If they can't get 3 members together, there's no way Idiots lets them use 3 stand-ins. And nor should they, in my opinion. And if on top of that, they do manage to get themselves together, but then show up like 20 minutes late, they're definitely going to get FF'd. Because Slinky, who lives in the UK, will just want to go to bed. So I'm actually going to predict a 2-0 forfeit win here. If Teemos actually plays, it's going to be... assuming they actually play, I think it's going to be super random. I think if a weak version of Teemos shows up, Idiots could win. I have a lot more faith in Idiots than I probably should, but... I think Idiots, especially because Choco's in theory playing pubs again now. I think I've been seeing him play on his like Legend of Smurf this week for the first time in like months. So if Choco's playing Dota again and Teemo shows up with a weak lineup, I think Idiots can honestly win 2-0 for real. If O's shows up with their strong lineup, where they have like most of their actual players and good stand-ins for those that aren't here, I think they could definitely just 2-0 Idiots. It's going to be a total flip-flop. I think the main thing with Idiots is that their laning is quite good. Like, Slinky and Choco tend to lane super well, so if O's whole plan is to win lanes then run at them, it's not going to work. Because Slinky's like 6k now. He just doesn't really lose lane very often. Like, they lost the lane against Hellbears. That's A, a very good team, and B, the main reason he lost it is because Xshao just fed on clock. The man didn't play clock and he just died like 3 times to PA. Slinky was still crazy farmed. Choco, he's all fingers, no brains, so he just lanes really well as well. I think it's kind of a tough matchup for Team O's, regardless of how good the teams are in a vacuum. And Victoria's Secret gets a bye, which kind of sucks for them. They've had a really rough season, and the last week groups, they aren't playing at all. Maybe it's good for them. Maybe they like the downtime, but I'd be a little annoyed. I think byes suck. But anyway, those are my predictions. Talk too much. Probably talked for too long. Only 45 minutes. That's not too bad. Here's the tier list one last time. Hellbear's at the top. Dumbledore's in the D tier. Honorary Wizard. Creature. Maybe created by the Wizards. A tier, I have Coconuts and Paradox. Absolutely, I think, especially now that Coconuts has had, not Coconuts, now that Team O's has had a bit of a rough last couple weeks, and I've become fully aware of how their roster works, I definitely think Coconuts is a step above them. Will Gang, I really don't know, man. This team is like, they've had a forfeit win, a bye win, a game against Hellbears, a game where they had 3 stand-ins. I don't even know what this team is. So it's kind of a guess, but they're at B. Vapor is like the best of the bad teams, and I think DC and Antikythera are pretty much out of the running at this point. Well, DC Clan definitely is, but anyway, see y'all next week, I guess.